West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
I have two readings this morning. The first, Waiting to See Who I Am, is a poem by Maureen Pierce. The poet is doing just that each time she visits her mother. She is waiting to see who she is. She is waiting to find out who her mother thinks she is that day. This poem reflects the shifting grounds of a relationship where one person has dementia. It is a bittersweet poem where Pierce celebrates her mother even as she watches her slowly drift away. Waiting to See Who I Am by Maureen Pierce. Her smile so sweet it charms a bee, her scowl so intent to have caused a dent, her laugh so infectious it can make your day, her cry so personal it causes dismay, her look of lost, her search for a familiar face. She always puts me in her space. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time to accept the name. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time for the game. The love we share when she is not there, the comfort I feel when I ease her stare. No answers to questions anymore, just embracing her so she feels at ease. She always puts me in her space. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time to accept the name. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time for the game. Only questions of comfort answered gently, for this soul who natured and nurtured, only touch that relieves tension. For a teacher above mention, she searched for answers for so many, yet today cannot recognize a penny. She always puts me in her space. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time to accept the name. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time for the end of the game. Life presents things that bring us to our knees. It seems so unfair to deal with such disease. Being the memory of my mother is a task like no other. Being the voice of my mother requires mindful talk. Being the hearing of my mother demands attentiveness. Being the task advisor for one so sweet is a blessing in disguise. She always puts me in her space. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time to accept the name. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time for the final say. Offered as wisdom for the journey. In our second reading, the poet Sarah Merriman encourages us to be a dementia friend in her poem of the same name. She writes from the perspective of someone with dementia. She asks for relationship even though she is forgetful. She asks for patience when she struggles with simple tasks. She reminds us that deep, deep down, she's the same person. Dementia Friend by Sarah Merriman. Who do you see when you look at me? I'm not the person I used to be. At times, I will not know your name, but really, I am not to blame. Dementia has changed a part of me, a part that you can't even see. It's had an effect upon my brain, but deep, deep down, I'm still the same. I can still feel and laugh and cry. So when you see me, don't pass by. without a word, a wave, a smile. Please just stop and chat a while. You'll cheer me up and make my day. Maybe we'll laugh at things I say. For there's still humor to be found. It is not doom and gloom all round. So please, please treat me just the same. The word dementia is only a name for a condition that I've got. But I can still do such a lot. I may just need a bit more time. So please be patient when in line. I'm struggling at the shopping till. I'll get there in the end. I will. So take a moment, pause a while, and then give me a nod, a smile. And maybe then your hand you'll lend, for you are now a dementia friend. Offered as wisdom for the journey. Walk in its light.
Don't get old. There was a lady in Regina named Noreen who would always say that to me when I'd go visit with her and her husband. She'd say, "Don't get old," when she'd be complaining about all the ailments. And I'd always say, "It's better than the alternative." And we'd laugh. Eventually, I presided at her husband's funeral, who passed away from kidney failure, and I finally agreed with her that it was time for him to stop getting old. Life was not better than the alternative. But I'm not going to talk about death today. Today, I want to talk about life. On another Sunday, we may examine medical aid in dying and dementia and what that means. But today, I want to talk about life. I want to talk about being grounded in life. I want to talk about what it means to be human. The reason I started with death is that it affects what it means to be human. The fact that death is a part of life must have an effect on how we live our lives out. And it's especially relevant to the topic of dementia, which we're going to hold up against our values in the coming weeks. And while there are some forms of dementia that can affect younger people, it's much more common amongst older folks. And we live in an aging world, and we have an aging community here at West Hill United. So I'm going to try and hold up the specter of dementia against our values of being grounded in life, guided by love, and growing in wisdom. And especially, I'm going to juxtapose dementia with our value of being grounded in life. Now, when I say dementia and grounded in life, I am in no way saying that dementia is a blessing or anything like that. Dementia is an affliction, and it can cause immense suffering to whoever is affected. My father got Alzheimer's in his mid-50s, and believe me, he suffered. You can take my word for it. But the thing is, you can't take his word for it, because very quickly we couldn't even really understand him. He was unable to really communicate how he was, or even who he was. But he was somebody. And it's important to note that when I say grounded in life, we are talking more than our individual lives. When we say that we are grounded in life, we mean all of life. Not just ourselves, but others, other human beings, all other beings. And not just all beings, but all the entanglements of all the beings. And all of the relationships and all of the entanglements. We are ever connected. Separation is an illusion. We are our relationships. Our humanity is entangled in all of our relationships. And so is the web of life. The web of life consists of these entanglements and the resulting relationships. So it follows that the way we relate to folks with dementia can have an enormous impact on the well-being of the web of life itself. Because we make up the web of life through our relationships. And in our relationships is the web of life. And when the web of life, which is composed of our relationships, and when these relationships suffer, so does the web of life. So let me take this a little deeper. Let me give you an example or a metaphor of what I might be trying to get at here. And we might be able to open this up a bit by looking at Hans Dreischa's 19th century experiments with sea urchin embryos. These experiments show us the depth of our interconnectedness, but they also open us to the wholeness and the unity of the web of life. So what Dreisha did was he took a fertilized sea urchin embryo, and immediately after the first cell split into two cells, he shook it up violently so that the two cells split apart. And when he examined each cell under a microscope, he thought, oh, I'm going to see half of an embryo in one cell, and I'll see half of an embryo in another cell. But that's not what he saw. Instead, he saw two smaller but perfectly formed sea urchin embryos. The embryos themselves had self-regulated to form a whole from the parts that each side had. Each of the cells took what they had left and used it to fulfill their destiny. They're called to be a sea urchin. So we can use this as a metaphor for the web of life. Yes, we are part of the whole, but the whole is also a part of us. We contain the whole well in us. The well-being of the web of life cannot be separated from the well-being of those who comprise it. And the health of the web of life is dependent on the relationships in it. And so now if we look at the person suffering with dementia, it doesn't mean that they're not suffering. They will. Suffering is a part of life. Suffering happens. And dementia causes suffering. But if we pay attention to our relationships and always honor the humanity of the person with dementia, we can help ease that suffering. We can ease the suffering of the person with dementia, and in so doing, co-create a healthier web of life. And that's why when preparing for this week, I chose two poems that really tried to see the point of view of the person afflicted. Sarah Merriman goes so far as to encourage us to be a dementia friend. She writes the poem as if a person with dementia is speaking. And even though the protagonist of the poem acknowledges that she has changed and that her brain is not working as well as it used to, she insists that deep, deep, deep down, I am still the same. I can still feel. I can still laugh and cry. So when you see me, don't pass by. Don't pass by. Reach out in relationship. Honor and nurture the relationship that exists no matter what, even if that person is ill. And we're called to see the humanity in the person with dementia. They are more than their affliction. They are still human, still fully human, even if they are ill. And the sea urchin embryo experiments remind us that they are still whole. They are still human, even though they've been changed by a disease. Even if they're a different person, even if they're diminished, they are still whole. Their humanity has not decreased. Now, I told you earlier that my father had Alzheimer's, but my mother also had dementia when she got into her 80s. She didn't have Alzheimer's, but she had small strokes and a couple of middling strokes, which resulted in dementia. And she suffered less than my father, and I think she would say that. But she still suffered. But even when her brain was significantly damaged, she was still able to enjoy life. She loved my cats. She'd come down each morning and say, "Hello, babies, hello, darlings," and they'd swirl around her feet. She loved watching TV, and she loved sleeping 16 hours a day. I used to joke that she was living a teenager's dream life. it wasn't the same life as it had been before, but she still had life. She's still human. She still had enjoyment. She even told me when she was quite far gone with her dementia that she was not ready to go yet. Her life, even though she had gotten old, against Noreen's advice, even though she suffered, was better than the alternative. And when we honor the humanity of the person suffering from dementia, we are being grounded in life. Like Maureen Pierce wrote in Waiting to See Who I Am, when she visited her mother, even though her mother wasn't always sure who she was. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time to accept the name. Going in each time, waiting to see who I am, preparing each time for the game. But still, her mother was human, and she honored the humanity in her mother. And while we must attend to the suffering of the individual and the caregiver, we must not deny their humanity. Because her smile so sweet, it charms a bee. Her scowl so intent to have caused a dent. Her laugh so infectious it can make your day. Her cry so personal, it causes dismay. Her look of lost, her search for a familiar face, she always puts me in her space. Pierce is still searching for the humanity in her mother, even if her mother is even if she's just waiting to think who her mother thinks she is. She still finds the humanity in her mother, even though her mother has changed. You can feel the pathos of the poem and the sadness she feels with her mother's dementia and her mother's suffering, but she still honors her humanity. Her mother is still whole. She may be diminished, like the sea urchin embryo, but she is still whole. And as we honor her wholeness and her humanity, we honor her place in the web of life, and we honor the wholeness of the entire web of life itself. Because this has far-reaching implications. When we insist on honoring the humanity of the dementia sufferer, it implies that we must honor the humanity of so many others as well. We must honor the person with a brain injury, as Ruth told us a few minutes ago. Even as they wish the brain injury had not occurred. We must honor the person with Down syndrome, even if they need more support. We must honor the person with cerebral palsy, whose brain can still be as sharp as mine, even if they require a wheelchair to get around. Because like the person suffering with dementia, and like the sea urchin embryo, they are still whole, and we must honor their humanity. And when we honor the humanity of all persons, no matter what affects them, we're doing something real. When we honor the humanity of all persons, no matter what afflicts them, when we celebrate their wholeness and their humanity, even as they fade away, we are being grounded in life. And in this groundedness, we're making the web of life healthier and stronger. To be sure, Alzheimer's is a disease, and dementia is an affliction. And like Noreen used to tell me, aging can be difficult. I never want to deny someone suffering. And even though every time Noreen told me, don't get old, I would say it's better than the alternative. That doesn't mean we should live forever. Sometimes the suffering is so great that death is a better alternative. It is time to stop growing old. Death is a part of life. But until we die, no matter our illness, no matter our afflictions, we are still human. We are still whole. And that is grounded in life. Peace.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.